Welcome to the channel. This is the Brass Ring. I'm the host, Desmond of the Brass Ring. And the topic of this video is a call to black men. This video is in relation to everything we've been seeing transpire over the last couple of years. It's been transpiring for years, but with the availability of social media, cameras on all phones, things that have been happening for years is coming to light on a global scale now, and not just segregated to particular communities. So what we're seeing now is unprecedented. We're seeing footages of injustices every day. I mean, if you turn on the TV, you are seeing injustices every day. Particularly the injustice that I'm speaking of is from the police. We see that police people differently depending on their economic status, depending on the color of their skin, depending on their gender. We're seeing that police have, for a long time, have been policing people of color a lot differently than they police people of a lighter complexion, to be more specifically, white people. We also know that police officers police people differently depending on their economic status. So, for instance, a poor black person or a poor white person has a higher probability of being violated, brutalized, or even killed than someone who's a millionaire, whether they're black or white. So we know this. You're not going to see anytime soon, if ever, Chris Rock kids or Eddie Murphy's kids or, Bill Gates' kids or Warren Buffett's kids. You're not going to see a video of them being dragged out of their car, beat in the middle of the street, or, be shot in the head in their car because they had a candy bar sitting on the dashboard and the police thought it was a gun. You're not going to see instances of their kids or people in their family being shot dead for frivolous things and being shot dead for not even breaking the law. So we have that aspect in it as well. But this video is not particularly to change the way the police different communities and people of color versus people of a higher economical status and people who are white. This is basically a call to black men and men of color in this country who are being brutalized by the law and by police officers who work for the law. One thing we need to understand is the law is not going to go against itself. Police officers work for the prosecutor's office. They work for the judges. They're the ones that bring in cases for the court system. They're the ones that generate revenue for this whole legal system. Prisons, courts, tickets, fines. They are the foot soldiers that keeps this system in place. It keeps the money coming. So you're not going to see the same people who are benefiting from what the police are doing prosecuted police at a high rate, even when the police are 100% guilty, even when you see on camera or hear on audio or even have both that they're guilty. You're not going to see them getting prosecuted at a high rate because they're the ones that keep the system going. They're the ones that are keeping the machine or the engine oil, so to speak. So you're only going to get so far with that particular system. We're told and taught that if there's an injustice or you feel there's an injustice, and when there is an injustice, that this is a system that you have to go through to get retribution. But the system is doing what the system is designed to do. The judges are biased. Yes, they're biased. Of course they're biased. The prosecutors are biased. The police departments are biased. the chief, the mayor, all the way down, because everyone in this system benefits from what the police does. If you want a better example of it, take yourself. Let's say you was a prosecutor or a judge, and your brother was accused of killing someone or violating someone's rights or brutalizing someone, and this is your brother, and the case is brought to you. How fair and impartial would you be towards your brother? That's why it's asinine for citizens to think that the very same system who employs these people are going to practice impartiality when it comes to judge and prosecute these people. But this is what they're asking us to accept. It's the biggest facade and falsehood that they've pulled over the citizens of this country. They're asking you, trust us that when our brother and our sister commits a crime against someone in the community, that we're going to be impartial in judging them. It doesn't make any sense. It's not feasible to think that their judgment and their persecution would be impartial. It won't. So that's the biggest flaw and falsehood in our legal system, is that you'll get fair judgment and you'll get justice. That's a lie. You'll never get that. The law is put in place to deter people. But when the people who are in charge of exposing law justifiably and they violate it, you're not going to see them get persecuted or prosecuted because they work for that very same system that's put in place. So what is the deterrent now? There isn't one. We see cops every day, and I'm going to highlight a particular cop in particular with this video, and that particular officer is Jason Stockley. Here's a prime example of a man who was chasing a suspect, says on camera, on audio, that he's going to kill him, catches up with the suspect, kills him, and then it goes to court, and he's acquitted. The judge says he sees no proof that the killing was premeditated, even though the guy said it before he did it. So the judge is expecting us to not believe what we heard and not believe what we saw. That is a perfect example of what I'm talking about, of the partiality when it comes to the legal system. Our lives are not equal. A police officer's life is worth more than a person's life who's not a police officer. We see it time and time again. That's why they keep getting acquitted. So they're not being held accountable for their actions. There's no deterrent. And where there's no deterrent, you'll keep seeing repeated offenses over and over again because there's nothing put in place to deter that particular behavior. Perfect example of that is cases involving rape. A woman accuses a man of rape falsely. That man is acquitted, or no charges are brought, or he goes to jail for years and years and years, and a DNA test is taken. He's exonerated after 15 years in prison, or if he doesn't go to prison, he's acquitted, but he spent money, his name was dragged through the mud, he was slandered, libel, all kinds of things was committed against this man, even though he was innocent. Once he's acquitted and he gets out of jail, or he escapes jail because he's acquitted, there wasn't enough evidence brought against him. What happens to the woman that accused the man of rape? Where's her prison sentence? Where's her fines? Where's her name being slandered? Where's her libel? Where's her name being dragged through the mud and posted all over social media and all over newspapers and magazines for what she did? So there's no deterrent in place for women to accuse men falsely of rape allegations. So where there's no deterrent, you keep seeing it happen over and over again. So it's the same thing with police officers. There's no deterrent to stop them from this behavior, so they keep doing it. So getting back to my call for black men and men of color, we have to be the deterrent. And what I mean by that is we can't expect a system, an unjust system, a biased system, a system that's put in place and a system that serves the very people that supposed to be protecting our rights, we can't trust and expect that system to be impartial and to be fair. We have to be the deterrent. We are men. Before we're anything else, we're men. And with being a man, it carries a certain responsibility. Men are put in charge of their households. We're put in charge of our families. We are expected to protect our families. We are expected to be that barrier between dangers in our households. And what we're seeing in a lot of these cases is we're seeing men not living up to their responsibilities and the expectations of men. And let me tell you what I mean by that. You as a man, you have a responsibility to protect your family, period. You are the protector of your family. You are the protector of your children. You are the guardian. You are the one that's supposed to protect your child. And I don't care where the threat's coming from. The Bible never said protect your family, protect your wife, protect your children, unless the person is a police officer, unless the person works in the legal system, unless the person is an athlete. The Bible never says that. The Bible is not partial when it comes to men protecting their families. We have to protect our families at all costs. We have to protect our families against any danger and any threat. I don't care what the danger or the threat is. I don't care if it's your next door neighbor. I don't care if it's the postman. I don't care if it's a judge, a lawyer, and I don't care if it's a police officer. We have to protect our families the same way. If I was to tell you, or if you're married and someone told you that the next door neighbor of yours choked your wife to death, what are you going to do about it? Most men that I know anyway, would go home and probably try to kill the neighbor or seriously harm the neighbor. They would try to do something to the neighbor. And if you ask most men, they'll say it. They'll say it out of their mouths. If that happens, if my neighbor killed my wife, choked my wife to death, I would go home and try to kill my neighbor. Now, let me give you a different scenario. Or a same scenario, but I'm going to change the situation a little bit. Let's say the neighbor that choked your wife is a police officer. Let's say they got into some kind of back and forth, verbal back and forth. Your wife ends up dead. The cop choked her. Now, is your answer now change? Does it now change from what your instinct told you should do as a man, as a husband, and as a father to now I'm going to go to court and try to seek justice through the court system? See how that works now? When it comes to police officers, we have been trained to let them violate us. Even when they're 100% wrong, we've been trained to let them violate us and then take our grievances to the court system. The same court system the same legal system and entity that they work for and that they fund. That's what we're trained to do. But as I said earlier, if that was your neighbor or the guy down the street, you would try to kill him or do serious harm to him. But when it comes to police officers, the answer changes. And that's because we've been indoctrinated to let police officers violate us in the most gruesome ways, from police brutality to the killing of our loved ones. So I'm speaking to black men to let you know that your life is worth something. Your life is worth just as much as anyone who puts on a uniform. All cops are not brave. Putting on a police uniform does not make you brave. Putting on a military uniform does not make you brave. What makes you brave is what you do when you're in that uniform. I know a lot of people who become cops for different reasons. Everyone doesn't become a cop because they want to protect the community. For some people, police officers is just a job. It's just a job. And when that clock, if they work 9 to 5, 10 to 6, whatever it is, after 5, 6, 7 o'clock, they ain't police officers anymore. It's just a job for them. So you have a lot of people who are cops, who are police officers, who are running around with guns, with badges, and they're not brave at all. They didn't take the oath to protect the community. The oath meant nothing to them. When they stood up there and went through training, that meant nothing to them. It was just a job. And you have doctors like that. You have doctors who don't really care about their patients. It's a job. It's about collecting a check. It's about prestige. It's about power. It's about a million different other things than what the job's supposed to entail. Same thing with teachers. That's why you have great teachers, and that's why you have poor teachers. You have the great teachers are the ones that actually care about educating kids and seeing them grow and seeing them be productive and their dreams come to life. Some teachers don't care about that. You have teachers that just want to collect a check and have long vacations in the summertime. So all teachers aren't great teachers, and we understand that. It's the same thing with police officers. All police officers aren't brave. All police officers aren't courageous. As a matter of fact, if you violated people's rights, and if you know people who are doing it, but yet you keep your mouth shut, like the guy in Florida who shot the guy in the back and then threw a taser on the ground, and then another police officer walked up, seen him throw the taser on the ground, and then turned around and walked away as if he didn't see it. He's not brave. He ain't the one that shot the guy in the back, but make no mistake, he's not a brave police officer because he's seen what that gentleman did. And I use the word gentleman loosely. He's seen what that cop did, and he turned a blind eye to it. That is not a courageous police officer. And if you know anyone in your police department and you are a cop and you turn a blind eye to things like this, then you're not a brave police officer either. It's not enough to say, I'm not the one that's not doing it. So it's not me. I'm not the one doing it. So I'm not a part of them. If you know they're doing it, but you keep your mouth shut, you're just like them. As a matter of fact, the Bible says you're worse than them. There's nothing worse than someone who knows people who are doing rotten stuff and then keep their mouth shut and don't say anything. The same way they've started holding the church, the Catholic Church, accountable for they did the same thing. It's the same analogy with the Catholic Church, and it's not even, I'm going to use this as an analogy with the police officers, but the same thing. The Catholic Church priests have been molesting children for years. Little boys, little girls, for years they've been doing this. And the Catholic Church has been doing what the police departments do. They've been keeping it quiet, not telling on the priests, and just shuffling them around to different churches instead of outing them and kicking them out of the priesthood. Police officers have been operating the police departments the same way. They catch a cop, they know a cop is doing wrong, he's crooked, he's dirty, whatever the case may be, and they release him from that department, and he goes to a different department somewhere else and gets a job. It's the same thing. In the same way, the public and everyone else is outraged that these priests have been going from church to church to church to church, molesting different boys. The same way people are outraged on how this can happen, it's the same way people are outraged with how police officers can go from department and keep violating people. So if you look at the history of a lot of these cops, they have a history of bad behavior. When they start digging into their background, they have a history of bad behavior. They've been let go by police departments time and time again, and they keep being reinstated. These things a lot of this stuff can be prevented. A lot of this stuff can be prevented, but the unions keep getting a lot of these cops reinstated. Police departments, instead of them doing the right thing, keep rehiring these cops. But make no mistake, these police unions are the biggest culprit on why police officers can keep getting their jobs back, even after gruesome and obvious violations. A lot of these cops that are now being caught on tape, there were red flags all over the place way before this incident took place. Unions lobby and fight for these officers to get their jobs back. Even at the the bidding of prosecutors and district attorneys saying they shouldn't get their job back, and police chiefs saying they shouldn't get their job back. There's an article that I read, and it was literally breaking down different instances and cases of when police chiefs fired crooked police officers and the unions got their jobs back at the disapproval of the police chief and the disapproval of the district attorney. There's a bunch of cases like that. So you have a bunch of cops right now who's back on duty with badges and guns, who was fired but got their jobs back because of the unions. So the unions are the same as the crooked police officers. So they're the same thing. So they don't escape the judgment. But since we know that this system is put in place and that people of color will never see justice that way, it's up to us to to protect our families. We have to become the deterrent. Now, some people will hear this video and say, "Oh, he's advocating killing police officers." I'm advocating men to take care of their families. I'm advocating men to protect their families. And I'm advocating men to protect themselves. I don't care who the violator is. If I'm walking down the street and someone is threatening my life, I have every right to protect my life, whether it's a police officer or not. We have a right to protect our families and protect our lives by any means necessary. And that's exactly what we need to do. We need to be the deterrent. Fathers need to be the deterrent. Husbands need to be the deterrent. I don't care who it is. We have a right to protect our families, and that's biblical. Not only is it lawful, even though the law is being backed by a system that changes, the law always changes. So you have a right to protect yourself, but as soon as you protect yourself and you do it against someone who the law is very partial for, like a police officer, then it's going to change on you. It's going to change up on you. You can't claim that, your life felt threatened or anything like that when it comes to if something happens between you and a police officer. That particular excuse is not going to fly. That only works for cops. Even though today we have every reason to believe that our lives are in danger if we're pulled over by a cop. I mean, there's so many videos out there that just about anybody can claim that now. And if you're black, you can claim that so much more than other people because you see it all the time. So that particular, even though it's lawful to protect your life, that particular legal defense or reasoning will never fly with the same system that police officers work for. But as men, as husbands, as fathers, we have a right to protect our families against any predator. And I don't care who the predator is. And we have a lot of predators that do wear police uniforms. I'll say this. If you are stopped or pulled over by a police officer, you should always be respectful. You should be respectful of anyone, period. Anyway, that's just the way a man carries himself. At any point in time, if you feel like it's going south or your life is in danger, I can't tell you in particular what to do because every situation is different. But if you feel like your life is in danger, the same thing you would do if you was in an alley or on a corner or in a movie theater, a restaurant, you felt your life was in danger. You do whatever is in your power to get out of that situation and protect yourself. And I say that now, I'll say it tomorrow, I'll say it next week. I don't care who the person is. My life is just as important as your life. And I don't want my family mourning because something happened to me, because someone did something they weren't supposed to do, or because someone has a bias, or because someone is prejudiced, or because someone is racist, and my family's on TV crying, protesting, or whatever the case may be. My family is just important as your family. My life is just important as your life. And I'm not going to stand by and let you put my life in jeopardy or try to take my life without a fight. And I'll tell you that right now. So, men, particularly black men, I need you to stand up. We all need to stand up. We need to realize that when God made us men, he put a heavy burden and responsibility on us. He put the responsibility of headship. He put the responsibility of protection. He put the responsibility of provision. You can't just walk around saying you a man, I'm a man, I'm a man, I'm a man without the responsibility. We have to protect our families. We have to protect our children. We have to protect our wives. That's what men do. It's biblical to do that. You don't turn the other cheek when someone's trying to take your life. The Bible never said that. Turn the other cheek is for offenses. If someone offends you verbally, then turn the other cheek. Go about your business if you can. No man's perfect. I understand there's certain offenses that men can't walk away from. You may be able to walk away from a particular verbal offense that the man sitting next to you may not be able to walk away. I mean, we're imperfect and we're trying to, we're a work in progress. There's things I can walk away from today, verbal offenses that I couldn't walk away from 3 years ago, and you're gonna be the same way. So at any time you can walk away. But when someone's trying to take your life, when someone's trying to harm you physically or your family physically, you do what's necessary to protect yourself and to protect your family. That's biblical. Not only is it biblical, it's lawful, but I lean more towards the biblical than the lawful because, like I said earlier, the legal system is flawed and ridiculous. So we have to become a deterrent. We are the barriers between the evils out there and our family. We need to let, as men and as husbands, we need to let any predator know that if you come for my child and you try to snatch my kid, molest my kid, beat my kid, kill my kid, the same thing with my spouse, my wife, that there's a man, there's a protector that you need to worry about. So we need to become that deterrent, and we need to become that deterrent for real. Point and a bad habit that is to be expected. No one should expect anything like this. It's ridiculous to think that this is normal. Police officers shooting people unarmed on tape, saying before the shooting they're going to kill the guy, roll up and kill the guy, and he gets acquitted. That's as audacious as the Rodney King beating. On tape, hit the man over 50 times, and they was acquitted. This is the same system that they want you to trust in when a cop shoots you in the back, when a cop shoots you unarmed. How many times are we going to sit by and let ridiculous stuff like this happen? Black men, we need to be men. We need to stand up for our families. We need to stand up for our children and protect them at all costs. I don't care who the predator is. The minute your life is in danger or your family's life is in danger, that person is a predator. They're no longer a police officer. They're no longer your neighbor. They're no longer the guy down the street. They become a predator. And at that point, you have to protect your family. You have to protect yourselves. As black men, that's what we need to understand, and that's what we need to realize. The same way those men in those uniforms say that they're protecting their lives against you, who they view as a predator, we need to have the same mentality, because they deem that their life is worth more than yours at that point, and they're going to do everything they can in their power to preserve it. We need to do the same. The minute you feel that your life is in danger, or your family's life is in danger, your children's life is in danger, you need to act, because our failure to do so is what you're seeing now. All these situations could not have been prevented. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that it's the people's fault. What I'm saying is we need to change our mentality and our way of thinking, because the law is not a deterrent for their actions. We have to become the deterrent. People have to know that when there's a headship in a family, when there's a father or a husband, that my actions will bring a consequence. Not can, will bring a consequence, because it's our obligation and our duty as men to protect our families at all costs. So we have to become the deterrent. And I don't care who the predator is. We defend our families against anyone who is a threat against our families. We defend them. But you won't hear that in traditional not traditional, I'm sorry, but you won't hear that in Christianity today. I mean, Christianity today is not going to tell you to defend your family. It's not going to tell you to protect your kids, protect your family, protect yourself. It's going to tell you the complete opposite. I mean, the way Christianity has been handed to us versus how it's been taught to other people is completely different. The Christianity that we received as Africans, as slaves, was a watered down, subservient Christianity. But anyone who knows about Christianity knows that Christ was anything but subservient. I mean, humility and being subservient is totally two different things. And Christ was not subservient; he was humble. In no way, shape, or form are you supposed to, as a man, let someone else come into your house and plunder it, you know, and rummage through it and destroy it and kill your kids and rape your wife. That is not Christianity. That's the Christianity that's been handed to us, so we don't retaliate against the audacities, the violence, the violations that's been happening against our people since we've been brought over here in chains. That's a watered down Christianity. The black Christian leaders today are compromised because they get money from the government, so they're not going to speak. What I'm saying to you, you will never hear come out of Al Sharpton's mouth. What I'm saying to you, you would never hear come out of what's the guy name? TD Jake's mouth. It'll never come out of Creflo Dollar's mouth. It'll never come out of any of their mouths. It's any black pastor of prevalence today. You'll never hear these words come out of their mouth because they've been compromised. The same government and system that's oppressing our people, that's dealing out injustices and inequalities to our people, is the same system that they're benefiting from, the same system that they're getting money from. So they're never going to come out and say what I'm saying to you. They're in a compromised position, so you can't look at them for any kind of unadulterated guidance, because you're not going to get it. But as Christians, we have every right to defend our lives. That's biblical. That's the true biblical teaching, and not the watered down, subservient crap that's being thrown out there and taught today. Anyway, this is Desmond coming from the Brass Ring. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a comment if you want, and I'll talk to you next time.